This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. A lot of news. As we say at the outset of the show, we just don't report the news. We make the news. Who is John Galt? Who is Larry Klayman? I want you guys to read Atlas Shrugged. I want you to perhaps watch the movie. There be movies, part 1 and 2. You can find it on Amazon.com, Amazon Prime. Watch it, because that's what we're living through today. We're living through radical leftists that are dumbing down the country and trying to destroy it. And in that book, Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand was very, very prescient. She saw the future. And an individual by the name of John Galt and a lot of industrialists, people in the sciences, the arts, medicine, they checked out. They left. They left society because it was being destroyed. And they refused to cooperate in the dumbing down of the country, in the communization of the country. And they took it down to ground zero so they could build it back up in the vision of our founding fathers. And we don't need to let our country go down the drain. And you're going to listen to Dimitri Penny later on in the show, a brave Dallas policeman who's fighting for you, African-American. He's got more guts than 100,000 white people, because most whites are running for the exits right now. Just call him a racist, and they bail out. They don't want to have anything to do with what's going on. Even our president basically has been bailing out. He's looking at what's going on, and he's kind of laughing, saying, okay, this is going to get me reelected. But you know what? You cannot allow this lawlessness. It's not enough to arrest 4 people of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people in the streets that are destroying our country as we speak, just to say you did it. Our attorney general is a worthless, fat blowhard who just sits there and talks and does nothing. It's time for the American people to rise up. And let me give you an example of the brave people. And you're going to listen to Dimitri and hear what he's doing to fight back. But then I have clients like Judge Roy Moore down in Alabama, who's been vilified, who's been called a pedophile. He's a fine man. He's a fine religious man. The leftist media has destroyed him. The Democrats have destroyed him. And even Republicans like Mitch McConnell tried to destroy him and Karl Rove. Well, this morning, we had a victory for Sasha Baron Cohen. For Roy Moore. We had sued Sasha Baron Cohen, CBS and Showtime, for the show Who is America? Sasha Baron Cohen invited Judge Moore to Washington, D.C. to get an award for the 70th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel. And Judge Moore is someone who loves Israel. He's evangelical. Israel is both for Jews and Christians. It's the birthplace of Jesus Christ, who was a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi. We are the same people. And he gladly went. And when he got there, Sasha Baron Cohen shows up dressed as a Israeli Mossad agent. That's the equivalent of our CIA, except the only difference is that the Mossad is actually competent, and our CIA, frankly, are a bunch of incompetent fools, if not crooks. And in fact, he then appeared on that show, but he signed a release, which is normal when you go on a show, and he crossed out, I don't want to discuss anything with sexual content, because Judge Moore had already been smeared falsely in his Senate campaign a while back. But Sasha Baron Cohen didn't care, and he pulled out a wand saying, well, with the Mossad, we've developed this wand with the Israeli Defense Forces. It detects pedophiles. And it starts beeping, and he defames my client. So we sued Sasha Baron Cohen. We sued CBS. We sued Showtime. these leftist hack networks. I've sued them before. I've won before. Anyway, the case was assigned. We brought it originally in Washington, D.C., and it was assigned to a Republican establishment judge by the name of Thomas Hogan. And he was too frightened to have this case continue in his courtroom. He sent it to New York, transferred the venue. And I don't think he did it properly. But anyway, it wound up in the Southern District of New York in front of a judge by the name of Andrew Carter, an Obama appointee, African-American. So, you look at that and you say, well, the odds are not in our favor because, people have been smeared from the South, particularly recently. Anybody who's from the South is considered to be a racist or Klan or whatever. I've been down in Alabama with the judge several times. African-Americans love him. They stop in the streets to wave. The South is much less racist than the North. I went to Duke University. I went to Emory. I'm from Florida. I know what the South is about. And there's more opportunity there today than there is in the North, in the Midwest. So that was not fair. But anyway, to make the long story short, ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots, today, Judge Carter denied the motion to dismiss of Sasha Baron Cohen. And I could hear the lawyers of Sasha Baron Cohen on the phone gasping when that happened, because now we're going to be able to take discovery. Now we're going to be able to depose Sasha Baron Cohen and all the other clowns at Showtime and CBS. And they tried to destroy my client, and we pushed back. And this is the moral to the story. We haven't won the case yet. We want to get in front of a jury. We get in front of a jury, I'm confident of success. But you cannot give up. You have to keep punching. I've been in front of a number of Trump judges. Frankly, who didn't have the guts of Judge Carter. I commend Judge Carter. He may be just like Demetri Penny. And there are many good African Americans out there that are on the side of the American people. Don't forget that. But there are these radicals out there right now who want to destroy the country. And you know who's using them? The radicals in the African American community? Mostly white communists, socialists, atheists, radical Muslims, others, the Jewish left, many of them in the Jewish left, like Soros is financing this. This is something that you have to take into account. Don't blame African Americans. This is a movement. This is a Bolshevik revolution. They want to destroy this country. And we have to fight back peacefully and legally. Now, I've written a book. You can find it. It's for pre-order on Amazon.com, on BarnesandNoble.com. It's called It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. That's the theme of it. I've been telling you this now for many, many months. Turn off Fox News. Turn off the other cables. Entertainment is not what we need right now. What we need is action. And these cables give you an impression that the world's collapsing, that this pandemic is going to destroy all of us. And when the pandemic seemed to be subsiding, then they got on to the anarchy in the streets, scaring the heck out of people. That raises viewership, advertising revenues. They're making money hand over fist. So turn that off. Get up off the couch, as I've said many times. Put the popcorn down, put the Coke, put the wine down, and join Judicial Watch's Freudian slip, because I used to do what I do today at Judicial Watch, but Judicial Watch doesn't do that anymore. They do mostly document requests, but hard-hitting lawsuits. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. It's good to get documents, but you got to use the documents. So join Freedom Watch's Justice League and join us in our quest for a legal and peaceful counter-revolution against these very evil people that are trying to destroy our country. That's extremely important. And get a pre-order copy of the book, It Takes a Revolution. It's a play off of Hillary Clinton's It Takes a Village. We don't subscribe to It Takes a Village. Maybe we're like the village people, for that matter. We need to rise up. The American people need to rise up. And you can find it at Amazon.com and also at BarnesandNoble.com. But it's also what you hear on this show, and you should be sharing this show far and wide. I always thank Radio America. I do a podcast every single morning, and I thank them for letting me tell the truth as I believe it to be. I even send that podcast to Fox News that I'm not friendly with for a lot of different reasons, and you've heard that before, because they've done numbers on my clients, they haven't been ethical, and that kind of thing. But I was heartened this week to hear Tucker Carlson use the same themes that I've been talking about, and to some extent Laura Ingraham. And they're telling the president that either he shape up or ship out, because if he does not take a strong stand against the destruction of this country, if he just rocks back and thinks that this is going to help him in the general election in the fall of this year on November 5th. He's mistaken. Just recently, he only was able to fill 1/3 of the stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because, frankly, his base is not as energized as it can be. When you see the president dithering over the destruction of our country and saying, let the local mayors and governors deal with it, that's not what a president is supposed to do. He has emergency powers. He can order the police into action. And although, this sanctuary, so to speak, in Seattle has been disbanded, now they formed another one in Seattle. And there's one in Washington, D.C. There's one in New York. There's one in many cities around this country. It's lawlessness. It's Atlas Shrugged. And then, of course, the Chinese. It's not enough to say it's the Kung flu or the Chinese virus. It's Freedom Watch is bringing the class action lawsuits. Go to Freedom Watch USA and sign up for that. And we're bringing criminal cases in The Hague, Holland against the communist Chinese leadership. And Larry Klayman personally has cases for Sasha and Cohen. And also as Freedom Watch, we have defamation cases. We've taken on social media. We've taken on the deep state in defending the Bundys. Go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org. We have citizens' grand juries. We're going to be reconvening. We've already indicted Mueller. We're going to try him once the virus subsides. We need your help. We need to enlist you in our citizens' army. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our cause. Sign up for our citizens' grand juries. Sign up for our class actions with regard to the communist Chinese. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Now, I'm going to be back with Dimitri Petty. Listen carefully what he has to say. He's an African-American policeman in Dallas, Texas, a sergeant running for Congress. He's risked his life. They have threatened to harm him and his family. And he believes and loves this country, and I know you do too. I'll be right back with Dimitri Petty and one of the great patriots that I have the pleasure of working with, in addition to many of my other clients and friends. Until then, God bless. Go to the website and check it out. And I'll be right back with Sergeant Dimitri Petty.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
Don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with my friend, my brother, my client, Dimitri Petty. He's been on the show many times before. You know him as that brave Dallas policeman. He's a sergeant who stood up to Farrakhan, stood up to Black Lives Matter, stood up to the new Black Panthers Party, stood up to Obama, stood up to all the race baiters, and filed a lawsuit against Louis Farrakhan and the whole lot of them for inciting violence, which led to the killing of 5 Dallas police officers and the maiming of many others. Also, he referred me on to Enrique Zamarripa, the father of Patrick Zamarripa, one of the police officers that sadly was killed in that event back in June of 2016. I have him on the phone. He's running for the U.S. Congress. He'll tell you more about that. But he's courageous. He puts his money where his mouth is. He just doesn't shoot his mouth off. He's out there on the front line. For that, he was vilified. He was called all kinds of names. He was threatened. He is the kind of person that will turn this country around and take it from its almost certain destruction at this point in time, with God's grace, to its renewal. So I want to bring in Dimitri Petty. Thank you for coming on, Dimitri. Give us your take on what's going on right now with these radical leftists, these domestic terrorists that are in the streets. My take is they're using African Americans, radical African Americans, not the great majority. Great majority are good people, religious people. They wouldn't be doing this kind of thing. But they're using the radicals, and behind them, frankly, I think mostly are white people, okay? White socialists, white communists, white atheists, radical feminists, radical Muslims, radicals of all varieties. And this thing's being manipulated to bring the country down, to destroy the country. That's my take, but let's hear your take on what's going on. And give us the history of what happened in Dallas, because that's a lesson for all of us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Larry. I really appreciate it. The bottom line is, look, we need to bring our country together. And we can't bring our country together by dealing with these radical leftists that are trying to destroy it. And this is something that we've seen since 2015 when we pointed out how this radicalized agenda was being used to manipulate and exploit vulnerabilities in the black community. And you and I talked about this before when I was working on my doctorate degree from Texas Tech, and I was looking at mitigating the shooting attacks on college campuses and dealing with these radicalized entities. And what I came across at that time was an organized group. Organized group was actually on college campuses and was trying to convince a lot of young people to attack our government, that our government was the problem, which with all these social issues that were happening in the country. And essentially, they were able to effectively galvanize a movement using social media to attack our interests here in the United States. Now, I saw that trend coming way before we got to 7/7/2016. On July 7, 2016, 5 police officers were shot and killed in Dallas, Texas, 2 of them of which were really good friends of mine. That incident directly threw me in the middle of my own research, and that's how I got involved, and that's how I linked up with Larry, because the goal was to protect the interests of our law enforcement officers across the country. I've been a law enforcement advocate for a long time over the Dallas, the Texas, and the National Fallen Officer Foundation. So what I've done is I've stepped into this void to make sure that when government won't do what it's supposed to do to protect its law enforcement officers, that you at least have a citizen who's representing their interests to go out there and call for change. And unfortunately, we appear to be at that same point that we were in 2015, where these leftist mayors and DAs have given so much leverage to these anarchists. The anarchists that want to destroy our country, they've given them so much leverage. If you look at Seattle, they've given them the chop zone, and in that chop zone, multiple people were shot. They had 3 people shot. One of them was a child, a 14-year-old, but 2 people killed. And that's because of these leftist mayors that say we want to give the anarchist space to tear up or to destroy. And that's the wrong position to take. We've said this back in 2015, in 2016, when the shooting attack happened in Dallas. And this is something, unfortunately, like I said, until we come up with a comprehensive domestic terrorism policy, where we actually address these types of behaviors, we're going to continually deal with these radicals and these. We're
going to be right back, Dimitri, with the next segment. We're going to get into your solution for how we deal with it. Stay tuned.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Dimitri Penny. He is a PhD in higher education. Of course, it's been that higher education that has turned these kids into socialists, communists, anti-Semites, anti-white, anti-everything, frankly. They just want to destroy the country, many of them. And, of course, you can't blame just the kids. There are a lot of people behind this, and we're going to get to that further in this show. But, Dimitri, give us your thoughts on how we can address this. You just talked about that we need to be able to address this domestic terrorism. What we are in right now, in my opinion, we're in a second Bolshevik revolution. This is exactly what happened in Russia in 1917 in many ways. And once these groups, if they ever take control, total control, they've got control now. They got control of the streets. They're winning. Our president, frankly, is sitting there watching, playing political games, in my opinion. And I love the president, but he hasn't intervened. He could have intervened. He has emergency powers. Leave it to the governors. Leave it to the local people. Maybe they moved out the CHOP yesterday, but now they're forming a new one. And in Washington, D.C., they've got one in front of the White House. And in in New York City. This is going to be the norm because they see they can get away with it. And once they see they can get away with it, they're going to go all out to destroy this country and take it down to ground level. So give us your thoughts on how we can arrest this and how we can do it, and how we can reestablish respect for law enforcement. People like you risk your life every single day. You're still a sergeant of the Dallas Police Department, although you're running for Congress. And you can tell us about that, too.
Just going off of the basic Department of Justice definition of what a domestic terrorist group is. All it says is any group that organizes for the purposes of using force and intimidation to change governmental policy, then by definition, you are a domestic terrorist group. These individuals that these governors and mayors and local leaders continue to say they're peaceful protesters, they're not peaceful protesters because they're using violence and intimidation to change whatever governmental policy they want to push forward. And that's when I say we have to be smart. We have to start using the laws that we have on the book. Look, the courts are not working for us. And you saw that back when we filed the federal lawsuit against Black Lives Matter the first time. Now, that was an organized group. That was actually an organized entity that was going to go after us. But what we've seen now, we've seen this new movement morph. They are using the Black Lives Matter name, but what we're dealing with are anarchists. We're dealing with the president, right? He rightfully called it Antifa. But the problem is these are just anarchists that have all organized on these encrypted apps on social media, and they're giving directional information on how to attack our police. I work with a group out of New York called GOTBEC, a cyber intelligence company. And what we've been able to uncover just this week was that a lot of these Black Lives Matter pages were being run by socialist groups out of Hong Kong. Why is it that our Department of Justice is not investigating this? Why is it we got this conflict between this ideas of federalism and national and homeland security interests? And we have to find a way to merge them. At a certain point, our national and homeland security interests have to supersede everything else. And that's why I'm running for Congress. People know me. My real name is Dr. Dimitri Penny, but all my friends call me Trey. So I'm running for Congress as Dr. Trey Penny. And when you go look me up, go look and see exactly what I'm doing. I've been going directly to the people. I've been trying to convince these young people that you don't need to be out here in the street destroying your own community because there's another way. All people want is opportunity. And what we've done is we've allowed the leftists to use. Let me tell you how that whole thing even went forward. We were hit with a pandemic. You locked down the people in the inner city for 3 weeks. And then you tell them you're going to give them money, and then you don't give them the money. All you did was set in motion to be lit by these riots. And then when the riots take off, you tell law enforcement to stand down and give them space. Business owners do. The business owners lost their businesses. The people were being victimized in the street, and law enforcement couldn't show up. Why? Because we're following the rules. Law enforcement, we're doing everything possible to follow the rules, but the anarchists have no rules to follow until we start hitting them with some kind of real solid disciplinary action. We got to have some kind of action in place. And that's why I think a Domestic Terrorism Policy Act will officially be able to allow us to go after these individuals and hold them accountable 10 years at minimum for destroying our country.
You're right, Dimitri, but it takes someone to enforce it, you see, and that's the problem right now. What's the purpose of our government? It's not only just to protect us for our security, but health, safety, and welfare. So we have a convergence here of anarchists in the street, communists, socialists, radicals of all stripes, trying to tear this country apart, and layer that on top, as you correctly said, of the coronavirus pandemic, which frankly is not as severe, as Fauci says it is or others, but still it's being whipped up by these cable networks to create panic. They're making money hand over fist like never before and creating panic. So the confluence of these two things has paralyzed our so-called government. I call it so-called government because we really don't have a government, in my opinion. And then you got the president of the United States taking advice from the Republican establishment, which says do nothing, let it play out, making the Democrats look bad because they support it, making Biden look bad. But at the same time, the barbarians are inside the gates and Rome is burning. The United States is burning. Just last week, these barbarians went into the residential neighborhoods of Beverly Hills. They did it in other places as well. They were wearing T-shirts that said, "Eat the rich." What does that mean? Jeffrey Dahmer, we, kill the rich and then we eat their body parts? That's what they meant. Clearly, it was a threat. And they mean to make good on that threat. And the president sits there and is playing politics. And that's why I've been critical. And Tucker Carlson's been critical. And Laura Ingram's been critical. And Hannity, he's the cheerleader. He's never critical of anything. He just wants to, get his invitation to the White House and be a groupie. But you know what? Fox and primetime has been pretty good in the last week. And I commend them for that because I'm usually critical. But the president has to act. The buck stops on his desk. He has emergency powers. Just a few weeks ago, I was talking to Alan Keyes, and he says, "What do you think about how the president's handling this?" And I said, at this point, Alan, I think he's doing what he can. And Alan says, no, he's not doing what he can. He has emergency powers. He can mobilize the police department. He doesn't need the National Guard. He doesn't need the military. And then you've got these sniveling, zeros on Capitol Hill, the Republicans, who are scared of their shadow. And to me, the real villain here in terms of allowing this to happen, we know there are communists out there. We know there are socialists. We know there are people who want to destroy this country. Sadly, it's a cancer right now. It's growing and growing and growing. But white people are running for the exits. Just call them a racist, and they're nowhere to be found. But then there's people like you, Dimitri, and you're at the forefront, conservative African Americans who have the guts, like Candace Owens, to say it as it is. And they get vilified. They get all kinds of names, Uncle Tom, House End, everything else. They get threatened. I get this as a conservative Jewish Christian. The Jewish left hates me because I also believe in Jesus Christ. Okay, but you know what? They can take it where the sun don't shine and shove it right up there because this country needs people to step forward and to do what needs to be done right now. And if the president doesn't want to do it and our leaders don't want to do it, God forbid, there are going to be people on the extreme right, and they're not even right. You're going to have the Klan out there. You're going to have radical neo-Nazis. They're going to take care of business, and we're just probably a few days away from that. So that's the urgency of this thing. And our police officers sitting there, and they have their hands tied behind their backs.
Yes, there is a right wing that is organizing right now, and they're using the hashtag Boogaloo. They're actually organizing to do the exact opposite of what you had Black Lives Matter doing and what you got the anarchists doing. And we're going to have riots in our street. We're going to have a revolution in our street. And I'm hoping that we find a way to get control over it, get control of it now, so that we don't have to deal with that. Think about it. How are these groups organizing? How they're communicating? They're communicating using social media. Facebook, Google, Twitter. You have these encrypted apps, the Telegram, the WhatsApp, these platforms. But there's no regulation, right? They're all protected. They're all protected from this immunity clause under Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act. So they can allow these radicals to do whatever they want to do. These social media platforms are the only communication medium in this country that has no regulation, and they can do what they want. But they're exposing our vulnerabilities in the United States. They're going to allow a revolution to occur in our street, and there's nothing we can do about it. And you know what? And I really believe that we step back and we look at how China doesn't allow Facebook and our American platforms in their country. But at the same time, those countries, those individuals from those countries are able to use their platforms in the United States. Why is TikTok even in the United States? That's a China-owned company. Why is it in the United States? We have to be smart as Americans to take care of our own business. And until we start policing home, we're going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable.
Well, that's right, Dimitri, and we are extremely vulnerable right now. And Thomas Jefferson predicted it. So did John Adams and the rest of our founding fathers, is that when our morality and our ethics and when we have no sense of religion, when that goes down the drain, doesn't matter how many times you change your rulers or forms of government, there will not be liberty. We are going through a revolution right now. They're playing for keeps, and there are people behind it financing it. George Soros is financing it. The Chinese undoubtedly are financing it. The Russians, the Iranians, maybe even what little money Venezuela still has left, or Cuba, for that matter. But they're sitting there and they're laughing. And the president is also sitting in the White House laughing, okay, saying, okay, this is going to destroy the Democratic Party. This is going to get me elected. But you know what? It's not going to get him elected. Because I know, I've been going around talking to people that support him, and they're saying, we're really getting fed up here. When is this president going to stand up for us? When is he going to do what needs to be done and just stop talking, stop tweeting, man up, get the job done? I'm talking to you with tough love, President, because if you don't, you're going to lose the next election, and we're going to lose the country.
That's right. You know what? The crazy thing about it, Larry, and you and I talked about this. In 2018, I was offered a presidential appointment to this White House, and I was looking forward to go fight on the president's behalf to make sure that this country was protected. But you know what I saw when I decided I wanted to run for Congress? I saw a void in what was happening in the actual community. And that's what made me say that I'm going to run for Congress. You know what? The best way that I can help this president is by making sure that we have comprehensive policies coming out of the United States Congress. But then when I look at what's happening in Congress right now, man, it is sad to see that we have politicians that are just giving our country away. We're giving it away. Now the PC has become more controlling than anything else in our country. All we want to do is just be nice to everybody. America needs to be strong, and we have to stand up against the radicals that want to take it over and the anarchists that want to destroy it. We have to. And I'm going to make sure that I do it.
Well, and you're going to have a megaphone to do that. You will be the antidote to Ilham Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Cortez, and the rest of them, okay? And I support you personally. As head of Freedom Watch, I can't tell people who to vote for, but I can tell you personally, vote for Dmytryk. I know him. He's my brother. He is the most courageous person I know. And, you don't know what they threatened him with, okay? They threatened me, too, at the same time when we sued Farrakhan. And Farrakhan's disciple was Micah Johnson, was the one that killed your brothers, your cop brothers in Dallas. And Farrakhan directed and ordered that killing just days before. And this corrupt judge in Dallas, Texas, Sam Lindsay, dismissed that case. And so did another one, a Trump judge, Karen Gren Scholler, for Patrick Zamarripa. They are scared. They're scared for their own skin. They don't want it in their courtroom. But you know what? We'll take it to another courtroom, and we'll get the job done, with the grace of God, Dmytryk. Fellow patriots, friends, fellow Americans, this July 4th, we'll be back with the verdict of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
The verdict are people like Dmytryk Penny. The verdict, Dmytryk Penny is the equivalent of the colonialists of our founding fathers. He's someone who's fearless, who will get the job done. I have several clients like that. Dmytryk Penny is at the forefront because he's taking on people in his own community who don't understand. He's trying to educate them. He's trying to teach them. And he needs to be able to speak to the American people clearly. He needs to be in the U.S. Congress. Dmytryk, tell people where they can go to contribute to your campaign. I pray that you will be elected. If you're not, you come work with me at Freedom Watch, okay? Or wherever you want to be. Because we need people like you who are willing to lay it on the line. Tell them where they can go to help you.
Yes. They can learn everything about me at pennyforcongress.com, PENNIE for Congress.com. I'm running under the name Trey Penny. Trey is my nickname. So it's pennyforcongress.com. Please go and support me. Right now, I don't have the support of the old guard Republican Party. the old guard, because when I come in, they know that I'm going to push back against their sheepish behaviors and them laying down and allowing propaganda to go forward, like defund our police. They know I'm not going to stand for that. And then by the same token, the leftists don't want me in there because they know I'm going to destroy them every step of the way. Because I'm fighting for the liberty. I'm fighting for the justice that this country was built up on. Let me tell everyone here, look, the black community, we're no victim. I came from the inner city. I came from the hood. Nobody helped me get out of there. I did it on my own and by happenstance, only because I had to be a victim of my own circumstance. I had to lose a family member that made me say, I want to get out of here. That was my motivation. And I stand before you here today, 28 years later, running for the United States Congress. This system does work, and it works for every man and woman that wanted to work for them.
Well, it's very well said, Dimitrik. And of course, and the same thing's true with regard to people fighting some of my clients with regard to China, the communist Chinese, not the Chinese people, like the African-American people. They're good people. I'm talking about the communist Chinese, who are also behind this rebellion in the United States, in part. And we're taking actions at Freedom Watch, like you're going to take them in the U.S. Congress. We have a class action in Dallas, Texas. People can go to freedomwatchusa.org, sign up for that, see if you qualify. We have a criminal case in The Hague, Holland, at the International Criminal Court. We even have a lawsuit in Jerusalem, Israel, and the Israelis mean business. Believe me, I've got two experts that will testify that what the Chinese released was a bioweapon. It's not immune from suit. It's outlawed by various international conventions, of which the communist Chinese are parties, and we're hopeful that that'll proceed. And ironically, in Dallas, Texas, where you are. So that's where we filed it, our primary case. And we're going to be filing one in Florida, too. We have to do whatever we can right now. We can't sit back and watch Fox News. Great. Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham said the right thing. But you know what? Turn it off, get to work, join Freedom Watch's Justice League, support Dimitrik Penny, people like that, and save our country, because it is dangerously close to going under for the count. Conservatives sometimes always paint a picture of doom because we want people to act. But in this case, it's actually here. It has arrived. And God is looking at us right now, and he's saying, are you going to help yourself? Because if you don't help yourself, I'm not going to step in. God has cleaned house many, many times in world history of people and civilizations who have gotten very corrupt. I can spend more than one show on how many civilizations have gone down for the count. But we Americans are not going to go down for the count. And we need a president who will stand up for us and not play political games. And the president's that kind of person, but he needs to snap out of it, like Cher said in Moonstruck, the movie. Snap out of it. Because if you don't snap out of it, we're going to be stuck with Biden. We're going to be stuck with God knows who that vice president's going to be. Biden will die in office, and you can expect the Inquisition. It'll make the Inquisition in Spain look like a warm-up act under Federico Franco, or Mussolini in Italy, or Hitler in Germany. So God bless you, Dimitrik, and go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to Dimitrik's cause. You need to be just like Dimitrik. You need to stand up for this country, and you need to not just talk, but you need to act. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, have a happy July 4th weekend if you can, and stay safe.